Have you ever felt that really deep, almost primal pull, to connect with others, to feel like you truly belong somewhere?
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe on the flip side, you felt that stark kind of aching emptiness when that connection just isn't there.
Yeah, that void. It's a feeling most people can relate to, I think. And it's not just some fleeting emotion or, a nice to have. Belonging is, well, it's a universal human need. It's absolutely fundamental to how we flourish. Think about Maslow's hierarchy.
Ah, yes.
It's ranked third, the third most important need, right after the really basic stuff like air, water, and feeling safe.
That high up.
Actually. And some groundbreaking work by psychologists Baumeister and Leary back in '95 really hammered this home. They highlighted its deep ancestral roots, how profoundly it shapes, well, everything about us.
You've really hit on something fundamental there. And that's exactly what we want to explore in this deep dive. We're going to unpack the powerful science behind why we genuinely need each other for our overall well-being, our happiness. We'll look at the impact on health, mind, spirit, and maybe even get into some practical ways you can cultivate it in your own life, starting now.
Let's jump right in then. Because when we talk about this need to belong, we're really tapping into something woven deep into our evolutionary story. Humans are, at our core, wired to be social creatures.
We really are.
It wasn't like we just, happened to form groups. Our entire species evolved in these tight-knit communities. It was literally our best shot at survival.
That's such a crucial distinction, isn't it? Not just beneficial, but essential. Yeah. Absolutely essential for existing.
Total.
If you think about it, our whole survival strategy, unlike, say, a tiger or something, it hinges on belonging to a group.
Yeah.
We were the fastest on our own or the strongest.
Not at all.
We absolutely needed each other for hunting, gathering, protection, just thriving.
Precisely. And this isn't some modern fad or just a preference. It's ingrained deep in our motivations as a species.
Right.
And that loops right back to Maslow. His hierarchy suggests that until that foundational need for belonging is met, it's incredibly hard, maybe even impossible, to really pursue those higher level needs.
Like what specifically?
Things like really excelling at learning something new or tapping into your full creative potential. It's tough to focus on, say, painting a masterpiece if you feel completely isolated and alone.
That's fascinating. It puts connection almost at the top, challenging some older psychological ideas maybe?
Well, yeah, some researchers even argue that this drive to build and keep relationships might be even more fundamental than, say, sexuality or aggression. Things Freud really focused on.
Interesting.
And it feels like poets and writers have sensed this intuitively for ages.
That makes sense. That quote by Goethe comes to mind.
Oh, the inhabited garden one. Yes.
Yeah.
The world is so empty if one thinks only of mountains, rivers, and cities.
But to know someone who thinks and feels with us, and who, though distant, is close to us in spirit.
This makes the earth, for us, an inhabited garden. It just perfectly captures that richness, that fullness that belonging brings. It transforms a potentially empty landscape into something vibrant, meaningful.
Inhabited garden. I love that image. It really paints a picture. But it also hints at the opposite, doesn't it?
It does.
What happens when that garden feels barren? When those connections are missing? The cost of disconnection, it can be incredibly high.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically.
Huge costs, yeah. And it's important maybe to quickly define two terms people often mix up: social isolation and loneliness.
Good point. They're different.
They are distinct, yeah, though both carry serious risks. So social isolation is more objective. It's the actual lack of relationships, contact, support. It's about the numbers, really.
Okay, so quantity.
Right. Whereas loneliness is subjective. It's that painful feeling of being alone, disconnected, not close to others. The key is the feeling.
So you could be surrounded by people and still feel lonely.
Absolutely. That's quite common, actually. And conversely, someone might have very few contacts but not feel lonely. But both states, being isolated or feeling lonely, are problematic.
And the scale of this, I saw some figures for the U.S., they're pretty sobering.
They really are. About 1 in 3 adults reporting feeling lonely, and 1 in 4 saying they lack social and emotional support. That's a lot of people.
A huge number feeling that void.
And the health consequences are severe. Let's talk mental health first. Strong links between lacking belonging and things like depression, anxiety, even suicidality.
How direct is that link?
It seems quite direct. When you perceive what's called low relational value, that awful feeling that you just don't matter to others, you're not valued, it directly hits your self-esteem. And low self-esteem is a core part of depressive symptoms. Study after study confirms this link.
So the mental toll is clear. But it's the physical side that often surprises people. The idea that loneliness can be physically as bad as, say, smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
That statistic always gets attention, and for good reason. It underscores the severity.
How does that actually work, though? How does feeling lonely translate into heart disease or dementia? What's the mechanism?
That's a great question. Essentially, when we experience chronic isolation or loneliness, our bodies can enter this prolonged state of stress, like a constant fight or flight simmering in the background.
Okay.
This sustained stress response elevates inflammation throughout the body, it messes with our immune system, and it negatively affects cardiovascular function. It literally changes your physiology over time.
Wow. So it's not just in your head.
Not at all. It leads to increased risks for serious physical conditions, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and sadly, a higher risk of dying earlier. It really is that significant.
That really drives it home. And what about just outright rejection? That feeling of being pushed away or excluded, I imagine that hits us pretty hard too.
Oh, incredibly hard. Interpersonal rejection and acceptance too. They're both psychologically powerful, but rejection often hits harder.
Really? More than acceptance feels good.
Research suggests that, yeah, feeling disliked, excluded, devalued, it can unleash this cascade of negative emotions, tank your self-esteem, and sometimes even lead to aggression or antisocial behavior. What's really striking is that even moderate rejection can be as impactful as extreme rejection. Our brains are just wired to register social pain very, very acutely.
It sounds like that pain of being cast out taps into something incredibly deep, almost primal.
It absolutely does. Think back to our ancestors being cast out meant almost certain death. That fear is likely still wired in.
And I know you mentioned a specific, quite stark example relating to this, particularly with young people.
Yes, unfortunately. A really clear, though tragic example is the link between parental displacement and adolescent suicidality.
Parental displacement, what does that mean exactly?
Things like abandonment, a difficult divorce, or the death of a parent. For teenagers, parental relationships are often a fundamental source of belonging.
Their primary source, often.
Exactly. So when that's severely disrupted, it can drastically diminish their perceived sense of belonging. And sadly, research shows this significantly increases their risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. It just highlights how utterly critical those foundational connections are, especially during those formative years.
That's incredibly sobering. Okay, so we've definitely explored the shadows, the high cost of disconnection. But let's shift gears. Let's step into the light. How can we actively cultivate that inhabited garden in our own lives?
Right. The good news is we can cultivate it. And what's fascinating is how readily social bonds can actually form sometimes.
Like, it doesn't always have to be this huge effort.
Not always. Think about that classic robbers cave study. They took boys who were strangers, put them in random groups at a summer camp.
I remember hearing about this one.
And almost immediately, strong group identities formed. Fierce loyalties, even rivalries between the groups. It shows how quickly we can latch on to a group identity.
So just being part of something.
Yeah. Or even just mere proximity. Simply living or working near someone over time increases the chances of forming a bond. Familiarity, shared experience, even just seeing someone regularly.
That makes sense.
Psychologists sometimes explain this with reinforcement theory. Basically, if being around someone reduces your stress or makes you feel good, your brain gets reinforced. It says, hey, that was nice, let's do that again. It encourages seeking connection.
So our brains are wired for it.
They really are. But, and this is crucial, the quality of those interactions often matters much more than just the sheer quantity.
Right. It's not about having hundreds of superficial contacts.
Exactly. It's about meaningful connection. And this is super relevant in the workplace. Workplace belonging isn't just fitting in.
What's the difference there?
True belonging is being accepted and valued for your authentic self. Being able to connect with colleagues professionally and socially. Feeling trusted, feeling you can share your actual perspective without fear of judgment, or needing to constantly adjust who you are.
Being seen for who you really are.
That's it.
And this feels even more critical now. With so much remote and hybrid work, leaders need to be really intentional, right?
Absolutely. Remote work has huge benefits, definitely, for parents, caregivers, people juggling things. And it can be a reprieve from things like code switching, constantly adjusting your speech or behavior to fit the dominant culture, or those draining microaggressions for people from marginalized groups. It can bypass accessibility barriers, too, and many introverts find they thrive.
Lots of positives.
For sure. But leaders do need to be extra intentional about fostering that sense of connection when people aren't physically together as much.
So what can leaders do, and really what can any of us do in a group setting?
Okay, practical stuff. First, listen actively. Sounds simple, but it's key.
Right.
The best way to know if there are belonging issues is to ask. And crucially, create psychological safety so people feel they can give honest feedback. Maybe anonymous surveys, or just really fostering an open culture.
You have to make it safe for people to speak up.
Exactly. You can't fix what you don't know is broken.
Okay, what else? Maybe something that requires a bit more vulnerability from leaders.
Yes. Perfect lead-in. This one is powerful. Show humility and vulnerability. Encourage leaders, and really anyone, to share a resume of failures.
A resume of failures. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it. When people in charge or just respected peers share their setbacks, their rejections, it normalizes imperfection. It sends a powerful message. Falling short doesn't mean you don't belong here. It builds massive psychological safety.
Ah, I see. It makes it okay for others to not be perfect either.
Precisely. Another key thing, walk the walk on diversity and inclusion. Is diversity actually reflected in leadership? Are those diverse perspectives genuinely invited to the table where decisions are made? Or is it just about hiring numbers?
So real inclusion, not just optics.
Got it.
And supporting smaller communities within a larger organization.
Yes, dedicate space for things like employee resource groups or ERGs. These groups foster community, connection, and purpose beyond just the day-to-day job tasks. They create vital spaces for shared identity and support.
Okay, what else is on the list?
Number 4, gauge emotional well-being. Remember, emotions drive behavior. Find ways to check in frequently on the emotional state of the group. Are people feeling stressed, supported, engaged?
Makes sense. Emotions matter.
Hugely. 5th, create intentional opportunities for connection and prioritize consistent, smaller, ongoing things over huge, infrequent events, like starting meetings with a quick personal check-in or setting up virtual coffee chats between different teams. Small, regular touch points build bonds.
Little and often.
Exactly. And finally, fairness matters. Leaders who get that people have a high need to belong are generally more likely to be fair, to give people a voice. Fairness signals inclusion. It tells people they're valued members of the group.
These principles must apply in schools too, right, for students?
Absolutely. The impact is huge. A strong sense of belonging at school is linked to better academic motivation, lower dropout rates, higher grades, better social emotional functioning. The list goes on.
So the classroom needs to feel like a community.
Definitely. Students need to feel valued, accepted, included, encouraged. It's foundational for learning.
And it's not just the teacher's job, right? It's more complex.
It's multi-layered, yeah. A student's sense of belonging is influenced by their own personality, sure, but also their friends, their teachers, the school's policies, the wider community vibe, even broader societal messages.
Wow, okay. Lots of factors. Can schools actually intervene to improve this?
Yes, they can. Interventions can make a real difference. For instance, using storytelling, sharing stories that portray difficulties and struggles as a normal part of the educational journey, especially for students from minority backgrounds, can be really powerful.
How does that help?
It reframes challenges. Instead of seeing a struggle as proof you don't belong, you see it as something many people face and overcome. It normalizes the difficulty, making it less isolating.
That's a smart approach. Okay, so we've talked work, school. What about our personal lives? If someone listening feels a bit disconnected and wants to cultivate more belonging, where do they start? It can feel daunting.
It really can. But I've heard some great grounded advice from people who've navigated this. One powerful tip is simply to say yes to new experiences.
Just say yes more often.
Yeah, even if you're hesitant, even if it feels awkward. Saying yes to that invitation, that class, that neighborhood event, it opens doors. It creates opportunities for connection you'd otherwise miss. It's about taking that initial, maybe slightly uncomfortable leap.
Okay, embrace the awkwardness sometimes. What else?
Another practical thing, be a regular. Find a few places, a coffee shop, a park, the library, a gym, and go consistently. Become a familiar face.
So people start to recognize you.
Exactly. It leads to those small organic interactions, the nod, the smile, the brief hello. Over time, those can blossom into actual conversations, real connections. I remember when I started going to the same local cafe every morning. At first, nothing. Then the barista learned my order, then my name. Now we chat about our weekends. It's simple, but it builds community.
Little by little. I like that.
And volunteering is huge. Doing something selfless, not for money or gain, but just to help out animals, the environment, other people. It connects you with others who share those values, and it feels good, which boosts your own sense of purpose.
Those are great concrete actions. What about the internal work? Sometimes people feel like they need to fix themselves first.
That's a really important point, and it leads to this idea: self-improvement as a foundation, taking care of yourself physically, exercise, sleep, nutrition, and mentally. It's not selfish. It's about becoming a whole person by yourself.
Why is that important for connection?
Because when you feel more whole, more centered, you're actually better equipped to form healthy, sustainable relationships. You're not looking to someone else to complete you. It also ties into maybe the hardest but most crucial piece. Befriend yourself first.
Learn to be okay alone.
Yeah, learn to be comfortable in your own skin, to know yourself, to find sources of happiness within yourself, not just from others. It sounds paradoxical, but that internal peace, that self-reliance can actually be incredibly attractive and magnetic to others.
Build the foundation within, then connect outwards. Makes sense. But connections don't always work out.
Yeah.
We face rejection, awkwardness.
Yeah.
How do we handle that?
That's where resilience comes in. You have to embrace discomfort and learn from the failures. View loneliness or social setbacks not as the end of the world, but as experiences that can steel you, make you stronger. Everyone faces hurdles.
It's part of life.
It is. And sometimes being direct, even if it feels risky or might lead to temporary hurt, is better than hesitating or beating around the bush. And here's something fascinating from research. We often need to overcome our own social inertia and cynicism.
What do you mean by social inertia?
That feeling that going out, meeting people, connecting, it just feels like too much effort, like dragging yourself to the gym.
Yes, I know that feeling.
Right. But studies show we consistently underestimate how friendly and positive interactions with others, even strangers, will actually be. We tend to assume the worst or just expect neutrality.
We're more cynical than reality warrants.
Often, yes, especially about people we don't know or maybe even disagree with. But when we take that leap of faith, push past the inertia, we're often pleasantly surprised. People are generally kinder, more open than our cautious brains predict. Even conversations across deep divides can reveal common ground and soften animosity.
So take the chance more often.
Basically, yes. Assume positive intent more often.
Okay, bringing this all together, what does cultivating belonging really mean for our overall well-being and happiness?
Well, I love how Brené Brown puts it. Those who have a strong sense of love and belonging have the courage to be imperfect.
Yes.
True belonging gives you that psychological safety, that freedom to be authentic, flaws and all, without constant fear of judgment or rejection.
Lets you exhale, maybe.
Exactly. And think about the power of connection itself. Ido Koyenikan said something like, "He who masters the power formed by a group has one of the greatest powers known." There's immense collective strength when we connect and work together.
The synergy of connection.
Absolutely. And ultimately, the research points clearly in one direction. Flourishing isn't usually a solo activity. It's something we mostly do with others.
How so?
Spending time with friends, helping out strangers, even just opening up about our struggles. All these things demonstrably boost happiness and lower stress. It really challenges that modern narrative that's sometimes too focused on purely solitary self-care.
So self-care is vital, but connection is too.
Precisely. True flourishing, for most of us, is found out there with everyone else.
Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, the core message is clear. Belonging isn't a bonus feature. It's not a luxury.
Not at all. It's fundamental.
A basic human need that deeply impacts our mental, physical, emotional health. It's like the invisible thread weaving together our happiness, our resilience.
Yeah.
Turning the world into that inhabited garden.
Beautifully put. And the really hopeful part is that cultivating it is an active choice. It's something you can consciously decide to work on in your personal life, at work, in your community.
It's a muscle we can strengthen.
Definitely. And the rewards are just immeasurable. It makes life richer, fuller, more meaningful.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. As you go about your week, consider this. What single small leap of faith could you take? Maybe to strengthen a connection you already have? Or perhaps to forge a completely new one?
Just one small step.
What impact could that have on your own inhabited garden? Think about it.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it gave you some food for thought. We'll be back with another exploration soon.